It was raining when I first met Andrew. Not the soft, romantic kind of rain you see in movies, but the type that soaks you to the skin and ruins your favorite shoes. I was sitting in my car, waiting for my roommate, when I noticed him darting across the parking lot with a carefree grin. He had that charm, the kind that makes you smile even when you don't want to. I didn't know then that Andrew and his group of friends, James, Mike, and Samuel, were about to turn my life, and many others, upside down. "He's crazy," I muttered to myself, watching him splash through puddles as though he didn't have a care in the world. And probably trouble. I turned back to my book, dismissing the thought, but something about his confidence lingered. Their story of becoming friends was as unusual as it was unforgettable. Andrew and Mike first crossed paths in the crowded cafeteria, typical of any college campus. Andrew, who was raised in Lagos, had a loud, infectious laugh that made heads turn. Mike, originally from London, was seated nearby and couldn't help but chuckle along. "What's so funny?" Mike asked, curiosity getting the better of him. Andrew grinned. "Just life, man. You've got to find reasons to laugh, don't you?" Their connection started with a playful argument over football, Andrew passionately defending Manchester United while Mike swore by Chelsea. "United hasn't been the same since Ferguson left," Mike teased, smirking as he sipped his coffee. Andrew leaned forward, eyes wide. "And Chelsea? Don't even get me started on their defense." By the end of lunch, they'd exchanged numbers and decided to catch a match together that weekend. James, the Joker, joined the duo a week later. Born and bred in Atlanta, he had a penchant for cracking jokes, even during lectures. One day, he saw Andrew struggling to open a soda can outside a classroom. "Looks like someone skipped arm day," James quipped, grabbing the can with a dramatic flair. He popped it open effortlessly and handed it back. "You're welcome. Consider it my good deed for the day." Andrew couldn't stop laughing. "Man, you've got jokes. What's your name?" "James," he replied with a mock bow. "And you?" "Andrew. I think you just earned yourself a spot in our squad." Samuel, the mastermind, came into the picture a month later. The three were at a weekend party in the dormitory courtyard when a tall, confident guy walked in carrying a tray of grilled chicken wings. "You don't throw a party without good food," he declared, setting the tray down on a table. "I'm Samuel. Who's hungry?" Andrew raised a hand. "I like this guy already." Soon, they were trading stories about their homes. Samuel, hailing from Ghana, shared tales of bustling markets and family gatherings, while the others added their own cultural quirks. By the end of the night, they knew they had found their crew. It didn't take long for their mischievous nature to surface. They started small, switching name tags on professors' office doors and sneaking into late-night dorm parties. But it wasn't just harmless fun. Their real escapades began when they turned their attention to girls. And oh, how they used their charm. "Andrew, this is a terrible idea," Mike said one evening as they planned their next prank. "Relax," Andrew replied, leaning back with a smirk. "It's all in good fun." "Good fun for you," James interjected. "You're not the one who'll have to explain why the dean's door now says janitor." Andrew just laughed. "Come on, live a little." Their first big mischief was unforgettable. During a campus charity event, the boys made a bet to see who could get the most phone numbers by the end of the evening. They moved through the crowd like seasoned actors, each playing a different role. Andrew was the romantic, reciting poetry under the fairy lights. James went for humor, making every girl he met laugh uncontrollably. Mike was the silent brooder, leaning against a pillar with an air of mystery, while Samuel orchestrated the whole charade, pretending to be a photographer and handing out his business card. By the end of the night, they had collected over 50 phone numbers combined. The girls, they thought they'd met the loves of their lives. Take my roommate, Lucy, for instance. She was a firecracker, bold and beautiful, the type who could hold her own in any room. When James set his sights on her, she thought she had tamed the untamable. "You know," she said one night after a date, "James might actually be serious about me." I raised an eyebrow. "James? Serious? Are we talking about the same guy?" She laughed. You'll see. He's different with me. For 3 months, they were inseparable. He'd pick her up for late-night drives, surprise her with flowers, and make her laugh until she cried. Then, one day, she caught him kissing another girl outside the cafeteria. It's not what it looks like, he said with a sheepish grin. But Lucy wasn't having it. James, save it. I'm done. She kicked him to the curb, but the damage was done. For weeks, she barely left our room. And then there was me. I wasn't the type to fall for bad boys. I kept my head down, focused on my studies, and avoided the party scene. But Andrew had a way of sneaking into your thoughts. You're always reading, he said one day, sliding into the seat next to me in the library. What's the book this time? It's a classic, I replied, holding up the cover. Pride and Prejudice. Let me guess, he teased. You're hoping to find your Mr. Darcy? I rolled my eyes but couldn't help smiling. Hardly. Darcy's overrated. Before I knew it, I was caught in his web. It wasn't until I saw him at a party, his arm draped casually around another girl, that I realized I was just another name on his list. I didn't think we were exclusive, he said when I confronted him, looking genuinely puzzled. That was his excuse. That was his way of washing his hands of the mess he'd made. Their escapades were the stuff of legends, whispered about in dorm rooms and cafeteria lines. But not every girl walked away unscathed. Grace, the quiet, studious girl, and Lola, the driven pre-med student, both fell victim to their antics. Years later, I'd almost forgotten about them when I ran into Andrew at a conference. He was different. The swagger was still there, but it was tempered by something else, maturity, maybe. You look good, he said, smiling warmly. So do you, I replied. Life treating you well? He nodded. Better than I deserve. My wife, Hayden, she's my rock. Keeps me grounded. For the first time, I saw sincerity in his eyes. Life had reshaped even the wildest hearts. And maybe, just maybe, redemption was real after all.